back up a little bit so it's like don't bump the table. Well, hello everybody. We're doing a live stream after we just watched what episode is that, like 4? 3 of Game of Thrones Season 7.
Pretty epic.
This is my guest here, Phil Polipnick. Why don't you do a little, like a 2-second intro?
I'm Phil Polipnick. I'm from Hourglass Productions. You should go check it out.
And we'll probably put a link sometime in the future when I have time to do that. But here's the deal. Here's what we're going to be talking about.
You will go to my channel.
You will go to his channel. Or the White Walkers will come for you. Alright, so let's dive right into it. Today's subject is we're going to be talking about the episode and what inspires us, and tying it into our business-related and entrepreneurship channel are the business in Game of Thrones, how to fund an army. And we're going to be kind of doing a little bit of a series, I think, in this in the future. I've already got some collaborations going on for Khaleesi coming on this show. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right, so let's dive right into it.
Do you want me to make you a Khal Drogo outfit?
Yes, Phil, you can make me a Khal Drogo outfit. I got the braid for it. All right, so Phil...
You must have been defeated a couple times because it's kind of short.
Phil, just shut up and do the live stream with me, brah. Okay, so here's the deal. Funding... Step 1 to getting an army is you have to have a way to fund the army. Unless you have an army of White Walker zombies that don't need to be fed, don't need a roof over their head, food on the table, family back home, and they don't really have any desire for money, you're going to need to fund them. You're going to have to pay for them. We were just talking about earlier how, you know, if you're hiring sellswords or mercenaries, those are paid soldiers that will fight for your side. But the bummer with that is if somebody else... like Phil over here
has a little bit more of the
has
moolah.
a little bit more moolah than I do, you know, that loyalty isn't going to go very far. But on the flip side, like the Lannister army of Game of Thrones, they are still paid. They're not, their loyalty, though, is not influenced by their paycheck. Their loyalty is influenced by their geographical area, where they live. The lord of their lands are the Lannister family. Therefore, they fight for them because that's technically protecting their own families, because that's where their wife and children are living. You know what I mean?
So you generally want to fight for that.
Right, to protect your family, you know, and it just happens to be...
on the other hand, fight for other people's, so they can get other people's wife and families.
That too. It's part of the pay, man. Women, yeah. Pointing to you when I said that for some reason, but...
Fight me.
All right, so you need to finance an army. And I think some good ways to do that is either like a Littlefinger kind of a guy. He came into a position of power via money. I mean, I think the Lannister family really did kind of assume that power in their kingdoms because of money, right? They were financially...
They started out with good gold mines.
Yeah.
But eventually that ran out and they had to do it, and they had to make their money through business.
So... yeah, I mean, they have a diverse portfolio which funds their endeavors as lords and ladies to conquer their land politically. So they're both well off financially as far as business goes, and politically, which is like titles, ranks, land,
militarily.
holdings. You know what I mean? But the financial portion, that's why you look at, they owe a ton of money. Or, I mean, the Iron Throne owes a ton of money to both the Lannisters, the Tyrells, and the Iron Bank. Those are their 3 biggest debt holders right now. Kind of how China owns a lot of the United States' debt. In the same way, the Tyrells, the Lannisters, and the Iron Bank.
But since the Lannisters just are now in control of the Iron Throne, now that wipes out some of their debt. But the majority of their debt is from the Iron Bank. And spoiler alert. The Tyrells, they just conquered. They just took over the Tyrell rent and took their money to pay the Iron Bank. So they got rid of all 3 of their like financial debts.
Problems. Because
like that.
When the reason the Iron Bank is such a problem, and you can vouch for this, Phil, in this world, is because of the first reason we said of starting an army is having good finance. And if that's not through like business, how we already mentioned, or like, you know, you come through it through inheritance, you need to get it via a loan. And that's where the Iron Bank or private investors would come in and say, we think that you are a good and profitable endeavor. So we'll give you X amount of dollars to whatever you need to hire your soldiers, feed your dragons, buy your ships to transport your army. And we hope that someday when you win your war that we're helping you fund, you'll pay us back all the money we gave you with interest. So those people are investors betting on different campaigns.
It's not betting. It's making logical, educated guesses on who will do better. Investments.
It's an investment. It's a calculated.
It is not a bet.
Really, it's a glorified dice gamble, especially in Game of Thrones. But
what they do.
I mean, even
that's pretty much with any bank nowadays. When someone takes out a loan, they're kind of like gambling on.
Oh yeah, I mean, nothing's guaranteed. The economy could crash tomorrow, right? You could go into business as a car dealership, and then we come out with teleporters the next day, and you're out of business.
Yeah,
you know,
you're done.
But bringing it back to Game of Thrones, Phil, what do you think? So number one is finances. We talked about the 3 or 4 different ways that they can get financing for an army. What do you think is a second thing that they need to raise an army?
Supplies, like food. You need a large food stock and arms. Without which comes partly with hand in hand with the money aspect. If you have money, you can get those 2 second things. It's not as easy to get those 2 second things, but the money does help.
Right. So all of these are going to tie into resources. Resources as far as manpower, as far as paying and buying things, as far as weapons. Like I think we were talking about how I think the Dothraki is a great army of soldiers. If you had to give them up against, let's say the Vale, they're not going to do so well, in my opinion, because to take the Vale, you need some kind of extra oomph. You need a siege weapon. You need something to knock down the gate. You can't trample it with your horse. You know, you need something big. You need a catapults and freaking battering rams or a dragon. Yeah, but you need some power units in there. You can't have even numbers won't matter in that case.
But in the field, they're basically the dominant army. The Unsullied are, I'd have to say, a close second. I know there's been cases where the Unsullied beat the Dothraki, but I just still think the Dothraki are on top because mobility.
Phil, but here's that's if you're 1-on-1. But I think if you gave the Rivermen or like the Wildlings a dragon, I think Wildlings would come out on top in that situation. That's just my personal opinion.
Well, guess who has the dragon in this case?
The Dothraki.
And guess who the Dothraki also are on the same side of?
Khaleesi.
Who has...
no money. No money.
The Unsullied.
The Unsullied, yeah, that's what you were going.
You were getting there. You would have gotten there eventually. I know you would.
So let's tie back to, the second thing that Philip said about financing, or what it takes to get an army, is food. Now, tell me, I'm going to whisper to the camera, and then I'm going to see if what I think if Philip is right, because this is what I personally think. Okay, ready? Plug your ears, go. La, 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 la. He's going to say the Tyrells. The Tyrells, okay? All right. Nice. Who do you think, when it comes to food supplies, when it comes to grain, wheat, and meat, feeding the armies, who do you think is the most powerful family for the majority of Game of Thrones?
For the majority of the time?
For the majority. For the majority of the time.
Until about now,
yep,
it was the Tyrells.
Tyrells, yes. See, I had to tweak it there because no longer are they in power. I think, are all the Tyrells dead?
Yes.
I think, yeah. They're all dead.
They're all dead.
There's no more. Unless, you're a little, Podrick, whatever, minor, like, oh, I'm their third cousin, Big deal. But I think they're all dead.
The main family is dead. The dad, the son, and Marjorie all died. And
pretty much all the heirs. The primary
bloodline died in the explosion of the place
the Sept.
The Sept at King's Landing. And then the Queen of Thorns was the only one who was left was the ruling member, and she died.
So they used to be in a position of power.
I said spoilers way earlier so no one can yell. Like, this whole video is contained.
Watch, I'm gonna, like, lose, like, 100 subscribers. Just
you have to put spoilers on the...
Spoiler alert. Right, the first line of the description, I'll be like, all capital letters.
You should probably put that in the title. Like, spoiler.
No! Clickbait. Anyway, so, food is essential. Because if you are, like... Who am I gonna say?
The Tyrells?
No.
What?
Someone who lacked food and it cost him big time.
Khaleesi. Lannisters.
Stannis Baratheon. Good job, Phil.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know what part you were... I thought you were talking about, like, right now.
No, Phil. No! You gotta think back. Okay. So, Stannis Baratheon.
That was more so they were just at the wrong spot at the
But
wrong
I
time.
think one of the big contributors is that food. Because they were up in the middle of North. His soldiers had never been in winter before.
They weren't in any, like, castle area.
Yeah, they were all exposed in a camp in the winter. Lack of food. Lack of motivation. They just burned one of their heiress to their kingdom, their future lady.
They also had sellswords. And what the sellswords did was, since they didn't want to die out there and it was pretty hopeless, they actually took a bunch of the horses and supplies and left.
Yeah.
Halfway through, like, the winter.
Like we said, I mean, their loyalty is where their pocketbooks are, right? And at the moment...
It's not worth much if you're dead.
Right. Which is what... I liked what your line was earlier. Do you remember what it was in the kitchen?
They don't get paid enough to die.
You don't get paid enough to die. So, kind of interesting. Yeah, even though...
they get paid to fight, not to die.
But essentially, I mean, some of them are going to die. I mean,
yeah,
obviously. But they're banking on you being a good enough team that they're not going to... You know what I mean?
Which is why, in the first place, when it comes to soldiers, you don't just want, like, sellswords.
Right.
Because they're not going to join a cause that's likely to lose.
Right.
I mean, they still could, but is it probable? Probably not.
Right. Maybe like a couple of them would, because they're like, their families are starving and they're willing to die for that. You know what I mean? But yeah. But besides the point.
When it comes to like two like fairly balanced, it could go either way. But if like one's like obviously gonna win, they're not gonna take the side of the guys who are desperate about to die.
Right.
No matter how big their pocketbooks are.
Right. So keep that in mind when you're starting your own army. Oh, by the way, the reason for this video is if you want to start your own army, if you want to conquer the continent that you're on, maybe you're in, I know I have a lot of viewers in India, if you want to conquer Asia, I got a couple of viewers in like Africa, if you want to do that little thing, you know, maybe branch off into Europe. I got a lot of people
I would start out somewhere with less like military, like if you're
start in America. Nobody's got guns there. That'll be easy.
Doesn't have the largest militia in the entire world.
Yeah, it's not like Hitler was afraid to come here or anything. Okay. All right, so we talked about money. We talked about men. We talked about food. Now we're going to talk... Oh, we talked about siege weapons, how we think that's important as well, because unless you're going to be meeting everybody out in an open field...
That's more so part of the...
Which is unlikely.
Aspect.
You're right. What's another? Give me one more. Give me one more and we'll wrap up this video. What's one more resource
that you need for an army?
Yep, to raise a successful army. I've got something in mind. You chip in one thing, I'll chip in one more.
Well, you have yours. You can say yours.
All right. Mine is loyalty. And I know we've kind of touched on that on several aspects, but let's focus in on it. In my opinion, the person who's got the most loyal army right now in Game of Thrones is Khaleesi, hands down. Because
the Starks have a pretty loyal army too, but there's not much left of their army anyway.
Yeah, okay.
They said there's under 10,000.
Right. And let's be honest. Let's be honest here. I mean, shit hits the fan. I honestly think that, you know,
they don't really have an option to.
I think they're in it for whoever's the most beneficial to themselves. And for the last how many 100 years, it's been the Starks. You know what I mean? I think if the Boltons would have been a better leader,
they would have technically good leaders.
I mean, like with the values that the North has, you know, not freaking psychos. You know what I mean?
Another thing about that's, I mean, this is just kind of a side thing, but this is something that is different from like what would happen in real life compared to Game of Thrones. In Game of Thrones, you saw multiple times people would surrender to the Boltons, and they would get flayed alive even though they surrendered. In real life, you want to treat like whoever surrenders to you, you want to treat them really well,
because then future armies will more likely surrender to you. If you have a reputation for killing everybody after they surrender,
they're gonna fight.
Those people are gonna fight to the death, and they're gonna be more motivated to freaking slaughter your dudes. So that's why you want to keep your reputation good.
That could be like another 10,000 of your guys gone.
Yeah, you could potentially save a good chunk of your army's lives.
Oh yeah.
And you can use those soldiers for negotiation when they're in your prison. That's another political gain. Is you can say, you know what, secede to us, and we'll let your 10,000 or your 1,000 men live and go back to their families.
Or you could always ransom them.
Right. Or in some cases of history, you bring them into your own army. I mean, once you conquer like the Persians did that, they would conquer a territory with the least amount of casualties possible, and then they would assume whatever was left over of the forces they just beat into their own army, and they would grow their ranks. So even if they lost a little bit trying to take that territory, they would assume the other person's army, the enemy's army. Greece was another one like that. They did that. So that's why you'd want to treat your prisoners well. And when we're talking about loyalty, you don't want... Oh my God! Are you watching? Oh, Gabe, you're a dog! Inception! Oh, Inception! Pew, 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 pew. Oh. He's watching our live stream, right? Just a little bit delayed. Wow, that guy's really good looking.
That guy feels the best guy ever.
Well, Gabe, I'm so glad that you're such a loyal subscriber, and it's just one person watching right now. It's like 1 a.m., that's why.
We should probably finish.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. Get the hell out of here, Gabe.
And then I got
you want to join in on this last one? On this last point? Turn that crap off.
I got one. Okay,
Gabe, that live stream sucks. You want to be on this live stream.
I'm trying to...
Wow, did you see Fresh and Spice? The one and only Fresh and Spicy just commented on our live stream. Dude. All right, guys, this is Fresh and Spicy. Gabe Polipnick, check out his channel. Put that description in the bottom, too. All right, Gabe, we're talking about the financing in Game of Thrones, business in Game of Thrones, how to fund how to start your own army. And we think a lot of it has to do with funding of resources.
The Iron Bank.
Yes.
So anyway, so one of the last things I think you would need is land. You gotta have some land to start out with.
I think the first
If you
step
have no
would
land,
obviously
You need a
be-
base. Let's go with the base. Because I mean, Khaleesi could have gone straight to the mainland.
You have to start out with something.
Headquarters, yeah.
Because if you can't just be some random rich guy who just hires a bunch of people. It's gonna be quite. How are you gonna take?
I'm kidding.
Where are your men gonna sleep? Where are your men gonna eat? Where are the horses gonna take their craps? You know what I mean? Like, you gotta store your food supplies.
Take it
a base
by force.
So here's another one. Gabe, you want to add one more?
Sure, man.
Let's elaborate. I think that you need leadership. Now, this is not going on. We already talked about loyalty, but we want to talk about leadership as far as because one person can't command 10,000 people. You need tiers of ranks. So you want to elaborate on that?
Well, if you have a big family, I think that's a first reliable place to go to is siblings or whatever, parents or such things like that. Like, if Dick had an army here and I was strategic enough to lead something, I think he could come to me and ask me to... Shut the hell up. But you know what I mean, though? Like, so the first place I think you could go to is, like, if you have a big family, which back then, a lot of families were big families.
It would be a small family.
You had houses, yeah. So, that, and then...
Polipnick.
You want a bannerman. You want like another.
And then I was just gonna say, if you're big enough, people will ally with you. They'll side with you, and then they'll probably have experience with you because you're probably going to be a newer house or whatever if you're starting an army, or not a newer house but a newer power. So then if they're allied up with you, I think if you trust them enough, you could have them leading some tiers of your
in other words,
conquest.
You need generals, you need like
captains,
advisors, captains, like
strategists. You need
yeah. Nobody's smart enough to control an army on their own.
Nobody's has a loud enough voice. I mean, you don't have walkie-talkies, right?
That's what I think is whenever in movies when like leaders give a speech, you just gotta be like,
yeah,
the guys in the back.
What? I can say. Oh, yeah,
hell,
just
I thought.
just be inspired. Just be inspired.
Really important.
Yeah. Let's all just get jacked up. Yeah.
Everybody else is screaming. Yeah, I don't know why.
We're all gonna die. So, like Gabe was saying, you need either your internal. I like what you said about maybe even members of your family or members of other families that are allies with you. Like in the Lannister family, you have. Oh my gosh, help me out here.
What?
Jamie.
Jamie.
Cersei. You have Cersei.
Tywin,
technically is in charge, right?
Tyrion.
She's the queen. Then you got Jamie commanding the armies, but he's even got guys under him.
Like
Bronn
and Tully or whatever.
Dickon Tarly and his dad, Lord
Tarleys.
Lord Tarly.
You got Bronn. You've got even battalion ranks. Like there's somebody.
You're on.
Yep. Yeah. In charge of the navy. You know what I mean? There's different people. Even like someone's got to say archers ready. You know, somebody's got to say that, right? And you can't have like three of them. Like, no, it's my turn to say it, man. It's my turn.
No, it's mine.
It's my turn.
Yeah. You did it last time.
It's just like in the army.
Fire
you have a
regular.
squadron.
Fire
and I'm Officer John Brown, commander of Squadron
69
of Sector 8. Even like down to that, there's still
right.
leaders, per little group.
And the bigger your army too, the more of those you're gonna have. So, all right, guys, I think that wraps it up for this live stream.
A tree. You need strong roots, and then the branches go out, and
It's a pyramid, right? Because you have one person, and then you might have a few individuals, and then it branches out into captains, and blah 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 blah. So have tiered leadership.
What you need to do is you need to invite your enemies into your house and then get them married somehow. Get your
invite them to a wedding.
Play some sad music.
Keep your friends close.
And then slit all their throats.
Where's the stop button? Finish.